about anxiety. Moderate intensity physical activity can reduce something called state anxiety. So state anxiety is a feeling of anxiety about a certain situation that's coming up. And there's a good example of being really nervous or having state anxiety about an upcoming exam, like the one you guys have in this class. So it has to be about a specific situation and anxiety. So that would be a state characteristic. State anxiety, you're worried about something that's coming up in the future. So there are two reasons how physical activity can actually lessen your anxiety. They're not necessarily competing hypotheses, but there are two hypotheses out in the field that we consider. Number one is the change of pace hypothesis. So physical activity reduces anxiety by changing your pace and having a time to relax. So when I was a personal trainer, I had a lot of people say, you know, this is my me time. I have kids, I have a job, you know, I have to do all these things for my life, right? But that is my me time. That's that 1 hour out of the day that I just get to sit and kind of relax and be on my own. And so I would consider that an example of the change of pace hypothesis, right? So their anxiety is getting reduced because they're able to just relax and sort of have a break throughout their day. Can actually service that. Another hypothesis is a biological hypothesis. So basically that says that physical activity affects your metabolism of serotonin. And that's related to a positive mood. So you can have serotonin in your synapse for a longer period of time if you're physically active, and that can actually increase your feelings of good mood or lessen your states of anxiety. All right, raise your hand. Runner's high is a specific phenomenon when you engage in aerobic physical activity. After a certain amount of time, you actually start to feel a state of euphoria, reduced anxiety, and a reduced ability to feel pain after that activity has subsided. So a lot of times, you know, in the past, say 20 years of research, we really thought that this stems from the opiate system. So when you run, you actually have opiates, natural opiates that release into your body that reduce pain. Also endorphins. So endorphins are released into your body to sort of reduce the pain and increase your mood. However, there's been research within the past 5 years that suggests that it actually works on your endocannabinoid system as well. So your endocannabinoid system is a naturally occurring system in your body, and when you engage in physical activity, especially aerobic physical activity for a certain amount of time, the endocannabinoid you naturally release endocannabinoids, and that's one of the effects of runner's high. Physical activity, I'm sure that you guys have heard before that it can help with stress, right? Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the main things I study. So physical activity is actually a form of physical stress that you put on your body. Physical activity creates the same sort of cortisol secretion that psychological stress does. I know that you guys have learned a lot about cortisol, the stress hormone, over the past few weeks with the stress lectures. So physical activity actually creates that same response. But there's a difference. It doesn't work in your body in the same way as a psychological stress response. It's actually really adaptive. It can help you perceive less stress and also help your biological stress response regulate. Activity is a form of physical stress. Now, most physical activity is controlled stressor. Think about this, you guys. When you get up in the morning, or when you park your car down there, and you walk up that hill, making you walk up that hill. You can't make someone move. That's why it's controlled psychologically. You are controlling your own body. Don't make you move. No matter what you're doing, you are creating that level yourself. So it's technically a controlled stressor, and you're putting it on your body. And it is actually adaptive. If you have a long series of chronic stress, you may have dysregulated HP axis, which means you have different levels of cortisol throughout your day. Now, physical activity regulate that slope to make it normal. Everyone, right? Yes. So we all need to remember a lot of information. We can absolutely help with this as well. Now, this cognition example of what a dose-response relationship, right? Because now this first bullet says aerobic and intermittent exercise has been found to improve memory and cognitive function. So if you want to improve your cognitive memory, you're going to want to engage in aerobic physical activity or intermittent physical activity, right? However, strength training, lifting weights doesn't have these same effects. So activity has to be aerobic to get these effects. So different sorts of inspirations aren't necessarily going to give you the effects as a lesser activity, and that's why there's a dose-response relationship. Because it matters how often you do it, how long each session, and what you're doing during that activity. Yeah, sleep is difficult, you guys. So physical activity can help with that too. Physical activity has been associated with an increased total sleep time and also an increase in slow wave sleep, okay? So that means you sleep longer if you are physically active, and you have more slow wave sleep, which is actually the restorative type of sleep in your brain. So that's what kind of compounds your memories and is restoring your brain for the next day. Something real interesting about sleep is that it's really highly related to cortisol levels, right? So if you get poor sleep one night, right? You can't sleep, whatever happened, something went on, can't sleep. The next day, you're gonna have an elevated cortisol level. And that's going to make it difficult to fall asleep the next night. So cortisol is highly related to sleep. This chart, it shows a really cool depiction of the differences in your cortisol slope naturally and your melatonin slope naturally. So if you see here at 6 a.m., your melatonin slope is the blue line. Your melatonin is coming down as your cortisol is going up, right? It's sort of a crisscross. As one goes up, the other comes down. Now, if you see at 9 a.m., your cortisol levels spike, and that's natural. Every morning, cortisol helps you wake up. It helps you function in the morning. You want it to spike. And then, throughout the day, cortisol comes down and down and down. However, melatonin, your sleep hormone, can't start producing until cortisol gets to a certain point in this slope down here. So unless your cortisol is at that low point, your melatonin is not going to start producing. So that would suggest that you're going to have poorer sleep if you have higher cortisol levels, especially at night. So if you look at this graph, this is an exercise in cortisol slope. So cortisol is over here, how high your cortisol is over here on the left, and the time of day is on the bottom. Okay, the blue is if you work out in the morning, red is if you work out at night, and green is an optimal cortisol slope. Okay, let's talk about the blue and red slope though. So if you look, during the AM workout, you're physically, controllingly spiking your cortisol in the morning, and then it goes down and down and down, and that's good for your melatonin to be able to start producing at night when you're ready to go to sleep. However, if you work out later, afternoon, or at night, your cortisol spikes. So any sort of physical activity is going to make your cortisol spike. So it's going to make melatonin production really difficult, and it's going to make you produce melatonin later at night so that you're not going to be able to fall asleep until later. All right, guys, so I try to motivate you. Who wants to engage in more physical activity? Okay, I got about half of you. Good. You guys, physical activity behavior change is hard, okay? Approximately 80% of all adults want to engage in more physical activity, but they don't, okay? 1/3 of adults engage in moderate or vigorous physical activity. 1/3. 1/3. That's it. Like, that's barely any people engaging in this type of physical activity, possibly getting the benefits of those doses of physical activity, right? Engaging in physical activity is the most common New Year's resolution year after year, and that has been true for decades. One example of this is a public health campaign. So, think of this like as a billboard on your way home. You should engage in physical activity, although I've never seen a billboard like that, just as an example, okay? You're driving home and you see this billboard, you should engage in more physical activity. You drive by that every single day. you think about it. So that has been shown to increase physical activity only if the person is able to recall that they saw the sign, right? So if you're driving past the sign every day, the only way it's going to affect your behavior is if you're thinking about it and you remember it later, right? But what are we doing when we drive? We're thinking about what we're doing in school. We're looking at our phone, or you shouldn't be. My point is, these are really hard to be effective because we're so busy. Huge increase in some sort of physical activity every day. And as you can see, some of these signs say, get healthy, save the earth, take the stairs, okay? And it's literally right next to a staircase. So, and this one, another one, is right by the elevator, right? So it says, no waiting, one door over, and it points to the stairs. These are points of decision prompts. These are social interventions. Now these can be school-based. So, for example, say like students who have like an after-school physical activity type program where they do softball or volleyball or something like that, that would be a school-based social intervention. However, those aren't necessarily effective because after you leave the school environment, children are not engaging in more physical activity. It's pretty much only within the school time and school building and school hours, right? So, that one's not as effective. The buddy system, though. Buddy system is when you make a contract with another person to participate in physical activity for a specific period of time. This has been shown through research to increase the amount of time per session. So it increases the duration of your workout, so you're spending more time during your workout, now you may be talking, may not be working out. But it shows that you're increasing the duration of your physical activity bout. Also, it has shown to increase how many times a week you go. About as a behavioral intervention. Now this is a lot like your projects, okay? For your projects, you guys are doing a behavioral intervention. It's basically information and activities that address goal setting, self-monitoring, reinforcement, and development of self-efficacy, your own problem solving, and relapse prevention of physical activity engagement. So think about this as being individually tailored behavior change programs. Physical act training is one example of this. And doing this type of physical activity intervention can actually increase the time spent engaging in physical activity and aerobic fitness, but you guys, it can be costly. Working on a personal trainer can be super costly, especially month after month. It really starts to add up. So, research has shown online training from a personal trainer or something like that, an online program or a phone program, can be just as effective as being face-to-face with a personal trainer.
Like personally, my Mondays are just riddled with back-to-back responsibilities and tasks and extracurricular activities. I have literally no time.
Yeah, time. We're college students. I'm a college student too. Our time is absolutely valuable and precious, and there's just so little of it these days, right? What else?
I feel like also with time, as students, when you go and work out, it might make you feel even more tired, and then you don't have time to actually do your actual work. That's more important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, when you have all these responsibilities, it's really hard to say, when am I going to fit in physical activity? So that's why I really like that Garber explanation of physical activity. It doesn't necessarily have to be in your free time. You can start incorporating physical activity into your everyday life more. The first one I wanted to talk to you guys today about is preparatory planning. So this is a formulation of plans that enhance the availability and accessibility of resources that are needed to obtain your goal. Okay? Let me give you an example for physical activity. You're at school from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., right? And the gym is on your way home from school. Okay? So a preparatory planning technique may be to get up in the morning, put your gym clothes in a bag, put that gym bag in your car, and then at the end of the day, get changed while you're still at school and drive straight to the gym, right? Those are preparatory planning steps that you can actually make in your everyday life that will make it more likely that you're able to meet your goals because you're preparing yourself and your environment to start engaging